Hello. This is a list of my top 10 favorite films, excluding science fiction movies. I made a separate list for sci-fi because it's my favorite genre and it deserved its own list. This is going to be a jumble of animated films, comedy, fantasy, etc. Coming in at number 10, Heavy Metal. This is a sprawling animated story that is loosely linked by a narrative. It was one of the first animated films I saw that had like hyper violence and extreme scenes, explicit content, and I think it's dazzling to see all the different anime styles. The music is really good, and they did an excellent job combining everything into one amazing spectacle. It's a great period piece. I guess it came out in the 80s, and it's pretty fun with a lot of exciting characters and a lot of strange scenes. I especially like films like that where if you get bored of one story or you're not so much into it, you just wait a little while and there's going to be another part of the narrative that begins the story anew. Okay, number 9, Half-Baked. It's a humor classic. When it came out, I think I was in my first semester of college. Unbelievably funny. I laughed my head off. The dynamic between the three main characters is golden. It's funny and relatable. It's paced really, really well. There's not any lull in the whole film. It's got a beautifully well done story arc. Just a knock it out of the park humor classic that a lot of people will respond to. It really is hilarious, and the comedy trio, that's the key. Number 8 for me is Army of Darkness. While I liked Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness kicked it up a notch. I've watched some of the new television series, Ash vs. the Evil Dead. I love the ghoulishness of it and the humor. It's a mainstay in in horror top 10 lists for very good reason. It's excellently done. The effects are noteworthy. And it's just a rollicking good time. And Ash, as a main character, is immediately likable. It's such silly, good fun. Alright, number 7, Dracula. The Keanu Reeves version. Gloomy, eerie, a dark sensibility. There's like a shadow over the entire picture. The filmmaking is so well done. It's like a period piece, and just the mood of everything. Every scene is just dreary, and I like it so much. There's not really an inkling of hope. Once the fear and the dread start setting in, you get a sense of the character's hopelessness. And I'm just fond of the story of Dracula anyway. I had the book, and there's a theater company that does a very good production of Dracula every Halloween in the theater setting. And so just being fond of the story overall, and I think that the filmmakers did an exceptional job, and they've cast it really, really well, and it's just fantastic. One Halloween, actually, several years ago, pretty much the only thing I did for Halloween that year was watch the movie Dracula, and it was a great Halloween. It's a good film. Okay, number 6 for me is a humor picture called Cabin Boy, and it's got some absolutely off-the-wall humor. Starring Chris Elliott. I became a fan of his because he had a TV program called Get a Life, and I just thought it was so silly and funny. Like I was roaring with laughter. His particular brand of comedy is is very odd and off-kilter. I'm really glad they gave him a feature film. He had several supporting roles, and one of them that was noteworthy was in CB4, which is also a funny humor picture from the 90s. Chris Elliott is so goofy and silly. It's really a love it or hate it comedy style, and I think that everything is so tongue-in-cheek, and there are certain scenes in that movie that I can think about and laugh every single time. Very quotable. Just give it a chance. It's overall goofy, crazy film. I would love to see some commentary. I do love watching director and production commentary about films that I really love, and this one would really benefit from that. I would love to hear some behind the scenes snippets. Number 5 for me is Ninja Scroll. This is another animated film, dark and violent and obscene in many ways. The fantasy elements in the film are so unsettling. It's got like a spine-tingling weirdness to it, and the horror is so upfront, and the animation style just makes it all the more terrifying. The villains in the movie are some of the most horrifying villains, and the protagonist is awesome. They did do an animated series of television length anime about it, about Ninja Scroll. Also, I've not seen that, but I would love to. I saw it the first time I saw it. I was just blown away that something so intense could be translated into animation so well. It's definitely one of my favorite films of all time. I've not seen a huge amount of animated films that I've really, really liked, but Ninja Scroll is right up there. I mean, it's got a place in my top 10. It's incredible. Come here, kitty. All right, number 4, Caligula. All right, talking about obscenity in movies. This one was produced by Penthouse Magazine, which is pornographic. The movie is pornographic, violent, and crazy, and it stands alone in filmmaking as just one of the most off the deep end ideas that actually got filmed. It's kind of like the Dune film that they were going to do before they actually made the Dune film. It's when you think about it and you think about putting it onto film, the spectacle alone and the screenplay, it must have just been. I mean, it's incredible that the film got made, and it stars Malcolm McDowell in my favorite role of his. I also, of course, love Clockwork Orange, and I mean that's also a really great film. I read the book and everything, but Caligula, I mean, he, as an actor, can tap into inner madness and insanity that's based in. I mean, it's not an insanity like the Joker's insanity, where he's just cackling with laughter and just sort of crazy in a sense that social rules are being broken or like criminally insane or something like that. The Malcolm McDowell Caligula character's insanity is a deeply rooted, like a jugular insanity that encompasses his whole being. It's an insanity that doesn't follow any rules or somehow. The movie is it's not for all audiences, but I think it's a powerful testament to lavish filmmaking that goes down every avenue of obscenity and comes out the other side, and the audience is just like, whew, it's great. Okay, my number 3 film of all time is actually what I'm going to call the Conan Saga. So it's the trilogy of Conan the Destroyer, the Barbarian, and the film Red Sonja. I'm just bundling them all together so they don't take up, a third of my list. I love Conan as a character. I've read a lot. I actually have a really great comic book I just got about a week ago of the oldest renderings and imaginings of the original stories, and I've read a bunch of the stories. I love the Conan character. I love fantasy overall, especially grittier fantasy that's not quite so much... well, I mean, I love fantasy of all kinds, and especially the brand of fantasy that is like the Conan universe, where everything is gritty, and magic is in the air. It's perfectly cast. All three of those films amaze me. I could watch them 100 more times. Conan for me is just the coolest character in the coolest universe imaginable. I love Conan. It's like, that's really all there is to say. All three of those films, they're in my collection, and I love them so much. Okay, my number 2 film has a guest appearance by Conan, and it's the film UHF by Weird Al Yankovic. This is another laugh your head off romp. You can't get bored because the pacing is so fast. It's just absurd humor. It's every type of just absurd idea thrown into the blender. Weird Al's a brilliant musician. I've loved his music since I was very young. I went and saw him in concert, and it's one of the best concert experiences I've ever had because I was such a big fan. And I've seen the movie so many times. I love it. I love every frame of that movie. And it's really inspiring when someone who is so imaginative and draws on so many influences, both in music and in humor, and just makes these it all, the sum of it all is a comedy masterpiece. And UHF for me is just definitive comedy picture. Number 1, my favorite film of all time is Willow. I think it came out when I was in 4th grade. I've watched this movie more than I've seen any other film. I've listened to the commentary with Warwick Davis half a dozen times. Perfect casting. I like this film and this universe way more than Lord of the Rings, even though it owes a lot to the Tolkien-esque like fantasy tropes. It's a perfect storyline encapsulated in the 1.5 hour runtime or whatever it is. Casting is so brilliant. Every part of that universe crackles with liveliness. It feels so real. The different characters and the way that they're striving for their different goals, it feels completely legit. And every role is expertly cast. The combo of Mad Mardigan and the girl, thinking of Red Sonja. This is one of those brain freeze moments. Sorsha is perfect. And they even got married, those two characters, after the filming of the picture. They got married. And it just shows how invested everybody was in making an immaculate picture. It's the best fantasy picture ever recorded, in my opinion. It is fantastic, and from the moment the film comes on, I am transported to this fantasy world, and it's completely alive, and it's the best fantasy picture ever made, and my favorite film of all time. So, thanks for watching.